Hey everybody, welcome back to Retirement Clarity Radio. I am your host, Scott Newhouse, with a brand new microphone. Thanks to you guys. A few people said after my last video the audio was terrible, so I forked over a bunch of money, got a brand new microphone. Hope everyone can hear me clearly. Please let me know if you cannot. Also, I'm in a great mood. Today's Monday. I'm going to be watching my favorite show, the best show on TV, Better Call Saul, later tonight. We got 5 episodes left. If you're not watching that, you're really missing out if you just like great acting, great cinematography, directing. Everything is superb. So I'm excited for that. But let's get into the show because I know that's why we all came here. I want to talk about how to think about bonds in retirement. Now, we all know that historically stocks are going to outperform bonds. At least that's been the case the last 100 years. And for most of us, while we're working in our 20s and 30s and 40s, we might have had a fairly aggressive portfolio, making up 90% stocks or even 100% stocks. And as long as you're still working and you've got years or decades to go and you're putting money into that account every 2 weeks, that works for a lot of people. And that's actually what I am doing personally myself right now. We also know, though, that the game changes when you start retirement and you start using your accounts to live off of. You are no longer in accumulation mode, you're in spend down mode, safely spend down mode, which means that 100% stocks in retirement is unlikely to be the right answer for you. We want to add in bonds, and we've got to figure out how do we get the right allocation. Maybe it's going to be 60-40, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, or 70-30, or 80-20. I can't say for your case, via YouTube, via a podcast, exactly what the answer should be there, but you've got to figure that out on your own with a financial advisor, and then you got to think about what you're comfortable with in terms of that overall allocation. But you definitely got to figure that out. But what I want to discuss today is something different, which is how do you think about the bonds that you do have right now and what they represent in terms of your retirement income? And this is something that I haven't heard talked about too much, although I know some advisors think about it this way, but I don't know as many consumers who think about their own retirement this way. So this is a really important video. For instance, let's say you have 80% in stocks, 20% in bonds, so an 80-20 portfolio. The question you want to ask is how many years of living expenses does my bond portfolio represent? And I think that's a much better way of thinking about your bonds as opposed to saying, hey, I have 80% in stocks and 20% in bonds. Yeah, you got 20% in bonds, but so what? What does that actually mean to you? That's what I'm trying to get at here, because it's useful to know your overall asset allocation, and you got to focus in on that and get it right, but it's also really important for you to understand what those percentages actually represent in terms of actual distributions. So, hypothetically, let's say you take out 5% of your account annually, and you use that in addition to whatever you get from pensions and Social Security income. Let's also say you've got, $300,000 of investments saved up for you. So 5% of 300,000, again, 5% is what you're taking out every year. That's 15,000 per year that you're taking out of your investment account in addition to Social Security, pension, rental, real estate, whatever else you got. Now, if everything is going up in the stock and bond market, then you can take from it evenly, or if stocks do better, a bit better than bonds, then you can take a little more from stocks, some from bonds, and just make sure the allocations stick to 80-20 whenever you make those sales to get the income that you need. Just close enough, So that's a really good strategy in up markets and in even markets. But what happens if we go through a down market, a down period like we're experiencing right now in 2022? That's where your bonds really come into play. And that's why they're so important. Because instead of selling your stocks when they're down 15% or more, which you typically don't want to do unless it's just a dire situation, what you'd want to consider is taking the income that you need from your bond portfolio instead. So yes, bonds have been hit this year worse than any other year in the last 50 years, but typically bonds experience much less volatility than stocks when we go in through these down periods in the market. So when we go through a down market, what's really important to you to understand is how many years of investment distributions can my bond portfolio make up? How many years of investment distributions can I get out of my bond portfolio? So if you take 5% out of your account every single year and you have 20% of your overall account in bonds, well, the math's pretty easy. That makes up around 4 years of investment distributions. So you just got to take 20 divided by 5, and then you got your 4 years. Following me here? Okay, so in other words, you've got that 4 years to take money out of your bond account while you wait for the stock market to recover. And when it does recover, then you can either use your stocks for distributions or you can rebalance your account from stocks to bonds. But either way, that 4-year period of distributions that you have through less volatile bonds is going to help you get through the downturns in the stock market. And the math's going to hold true with different allocations and different percentages. If you've got 30% in bonds and you're taking 5% of your investments out per year, then that means you've got 6 years of distributions in bonds for you to wait while the stock market recovers in a down period. And again, that's the main point. I got to drive this home. You know, if it was only about total returns, all of us would be in 90% or 100% in stocks because historically they're going to do best. But what we've got to account for in retirement is that you might need that money through a prolonged down period in the market. It's absolutely going to happen. If you're going to live for 30 to 40 plus years, you're going to experience multiple down periods that last much longer than we would like. The COVID downturn that we had in March 2020, it was down from February to March. It was down 34%. Guess how long it took for it to recover back to those levels, to those previous, all-time highs. Take your guess. It took 3 months. That's in a complete anomaly. Most down markets take much longer than that. And so that's why I want you to think about the number of years that you can get from your bond allocation while we wait for the stock market to recover. And then one more example, like let's say, for instance, you've got a lot of money coming in from Social Security pensions, and that might make up most or even all of the living expenses that you need in retirement. Well, then maybe you say, hey, since I've got all this money coming in on a regular basis, maybe I'll have 90% in stocks and 10% in bonds. Okay, cool. And then let's also say you only need to take out 2% of your account per year. So if you're only taking out 2% of your account per year, you got 10% in bonds. Viola, that makes 5 years of bond distributions that you can make while you weather the storm and wait for that stock market to recover in a down period. So you've got to think about a few things here. What's your overall asset allocation, stock and bonds? You've also got to think about what percentage of my account am I taking out per year? And then you just do some really basic math and then figure out approximately how many years of distributions in bonds can I use while we wait for the stock market to recover in those down periods. I hope that makes a lot of sense. There's nothing wrong with spending lots of time on your overall asset allocation. It's very, very important, but I did want to share this video about how I think about bond allocations in retirement and really what they mean for you in terms of your retirement income and how many years of retirement income you can get from your bond portfolio. So I hope this has been helpful. If it has, please give me a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.